So there are two key aspects to fulfilling your potential in life. The first is to make the most of your psychological resources. And when I said psychological resources, I could have also said spiritual resources. I sometimes think that things are so big that we need to call on higher power. And by higher power, I don't mean by religion necessarily, but your sense of your place in the universe, your sense that you've appeared out of emptiness into existence like the rest of the universe. So we can call it source, or we can call it the great mystery. When I teach life calling, helping people find their life calling, the question is, very much, what is your life calling? But when we've really come to this place of openness to the great mystery, we then say, how is life calling me? And you could say when Nelson Mandela was going to prison for 27 years, he was called by the zeitgeist, the spirit of the times in South Africa. It wasn't exactly, oh, I've come up with my life calling. It was that the spirit of the times were calling him. And that gave him tremendous courage and resilience in the face of a 27-year prison sentence. So one side is to maximize our life calling, our psychological resources, our spiritual resources, our vision. And the other side is to heal what stops us from expressing ourselves fully into the world. And that's what we're paying attention to. That's what we're addressing today. It's very, very touching in my heart, because what I want to talk to in each of you is not really to your heads. I'm not that interested in talking to your intellect. I'm more interested in talking to the vulnerable place in your heart, or the place in your belly that sometimes hurts, that wakes you at night. To talk to the child in you that desperately wants to be loved, or the place in you that feels insecure in relationships, the places in you that are vulnerable. So, on courses, I will do an exercise about what stops you from fulfilling your potential in life. What stops you from fulfilling your life calling? And then we keep asking that question again and again. And we keep going deeper into what is it? And it'll usually be something like,
yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Who is that? Yeah, I'm just keep everybody on.
Sorry, it was my son.
Okay. That's the great thing about Zoom. We're in the real world when we do Zoom. The very, very early life experiences. So we'll talk about, before we're 3, between 3 and 7, between 7 and 14, between 14 and 21. But if you have disruptive experiences very early in life, they impact the whole of your life. Disruptive experiences in the womb, if your mother was depressed or on alcohol or taking drugs, or if she didn't want to have a baby, all of those things can impact you. Your attachment as a baby, how well loved did you feel as a baby? How connected? And of course, my mother didn't know about these things, but leaving in a baby in a cot for several hours was considered okay when I was growing up. Having a nanny look after the baby and see your mother once a day was considered okay when I was growing up. And so those things have a massive impact on your sense of safety, your sense of being loved, your sense of belief in yourself, your sense of your place in the world, and have an impact on how you express your life calling into the world. If there was violence in your early life, then you may think the world is an unsafe place and you have to keep your voice quiet. There are lots of people who keep their voices quiet because it wasn't safe to express their voices. Or it might be, it could be violence, or it can be something more subtle like patriarchy, a dominant male figure who was always slightly putting women down. And then you think, somehow inside you think life is better when I keep my mouth shut. We all have our versions of this, or we come from a culture where we were a minority group within that culture, and it could be a political minority. For example, in China, if you were a member of the Nationalist Party, you might have had a very hard time during once communism came to China. So you all know your own story. You all know what undermines you. And that's the place in you that I want to talk to. And there are these sort of different epochs of undermining. There's the sort of the pre-3-year-old period, where the problem with healing that is that it's not verbal. It's very hard. So much of psychotherapy is about using talking, whereas the pre-3-year-old in you doesn't have much language. It's hard to engage with that place just by using language. Then and these periods are very approximate, 3 to 7, the little girl, the little boy who does have language, who needs to be attended to, who needs to be listened to, who needs to be allowed to feel feelings, or to show off, or to perform, or to get cuddles, or to take risks, or whatever he or she needs to do. And then, of course, that next period, 7 till 14, when, you're growing up and suddenly, you begin to hit puberty, and how that's a massive change for you in the world. And of course, all those neurochemicals are just, doing all sorts of strange things to your body and your brain. So that can be incredibly difficult. And particularly can be difficult, particular difficulty for women, because women's bodies change in such obvious ways. Young women get breasts. Men start to stare at them. A lot of the changes for men are concealed, although, of course, you start to get hair on your face and that sort of stuff. And then, growing up, between 14 and, early adulthood, 14 and 21, these are just rough numbers. You can have these different experiences, possibly bad sexual experiences. There's lots of things that can happen to us in life. And I don't want to exclude, terrible divorces that happen later, or car accidents or other things. But I think one can generally say that the earlier the trauma, the earlier the difficulty, the harder it is to heal. It's a sort of gross generalization. And also that actually big one-off incidents are easier to heal in a way, or can be easier to heal, than the drip, 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 drip of some toxic message that you got all the way through your childhood. So sometimes people think that, some terrible thing that happened to you, a violent beating or car crash or something, that's bound to be much worse. My childhood was quite good in comparison, but actually drip, 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 drip of lack of attention, drip, 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 drip of disempowering messages or lack of love, or that is just as damaging as massive incidents, and in some ways harder to heal, because it gets straight to your identity. If I had a car crash tomorrow, it might be very painful. I might not be able to walk again, or it might cripple me for life. But my psychological identity that I've formed previously in life will be more or less, will be there. There will be some historical strength. But if I've been undermined from the word go, I may not even have a solid sense of identity. And so we just have to be very, very curious and patient and caring about ourselves. Very, very just sort of interested and curious about how we ended up the way we ended up, both with all of our resources, our life calling, our vision, our passion, our excitement, and also our vulnerability and our difficulty. And one thing worth mentioning to you is that some of it doesn't even belong to you. I was a man born in 1955 in London. So I've got, my parents, they were only 10 years out of the Second World War. My mother was a frontline ambulance driver. They saw horrible things. I was also the product of Britain and the British Empire. I carry stuff in my body that is to do with these people who went around and conquered the world. It really has very little to do with me personally, but it gets carried through the generations. You may have, for example, the women in the group may have multi-generational misogyny lurking around. Or if you come from a country, that had very unstable or political systems where you could never believe a word the government said, then that will have impacted you. Or if you came from a country where you were, not necessarily an Asian or Black minority group, but for example, a Jew in many countries, would have been, life would have been risky, unsafe. And so you want to be very, very aware of not only what you picked up during your own life, your own childhood, from these different sources, to be very curious about that and compassionate and loving about that, but also to be aware that you are a man or woman born of your time, that there's influences that you will have received on you through your parents and through your parents' friends and through your school teachers and through the culture you're brought up in, that really can affect your ability to express yourself fully into the world. And so we sort of have to bless and bring healing to all of those experiences. And one of the difficulties is that as a child, sometimes the best thing is to dissociate, to just leave your body, or to numb, to not feel the feelings. In an ideal situation, you get hurt emotionally or physically, you have a really good cry or you shake. People say, God, that must be really painful, that really hurt. And when you're ready, you're done. And you see that in nature. An animal, I saw a video of I can't remember if it was an antelope or something, attacked by a lion. First it froze, played dead, and then the lion got chased away, and then the antelope stood up, shook itself off, did a sort of whole shaking stress response, and then went about its business. We don't really support children doing that very much. We're getting better at it. So some of the feelings that we suppressed, that we froze, or that we ignored, or that we disassociated from, that may have been the appropriate thing to do at the time. There's a Christian mystic called James Finley, who, he says, when I was a child, my father beat me by day and beat my mother by night. And I asked my mother, what could I do to stop it? And she said, pray to God and God will give you a safe place. And I prayed to God and God gave me this secret place where my father could no longer hurt me. And he said, it was only many years later when I became a psychologist that I realized that I dissociated from my body. But then he says, but who is to say that wasn't a gift from God? The problem is that there are certain situations where suppressing, dissociating, having a stiff upper lip, sucking it up, is the, if you're on the battlefield, don't sit down and cry. You can't sit down and cry. But when you get off the battlefield, at some point, there needs to be a time when you say, I need to feel this again. And the problem is that the longer you've dissociated from, the harder it is to get back to it. And just for people who, who've experienced, who have trauma, which we all have to some degree, one of the key methods is to call titration, which is you just feel a little bit of it. First you honor the dissociation or the disconnection, but you don't rest there. So the basic essential, the essence of healing is that you bring love, compassion, and presence to the wounded place in yourself. That's the essence of it all. All the fancy psychotherapy, counseling, coaching techniques in the world, that is the essence of all of them. And that another person, a practitioner, either a coach or a therapist or a peer group member in some sort of group, like the Life Talent Program, my program, someone is holding that witness presence for you so that you can learn to hold that witness, that loving, witnessing presence for yourself. Very often it's very, very hard for us to be compassionate about those wounded places in ourselves. Sometimes, if somebody's nasty to me, I might feel it a bit, and then I pick myself up and I move on. We've got very, very used to picking ourselves up, and moving on. And sometimes we have to just stop and say, actually, my ability to disconnect from the difficult feelings is now getting in the way of me healing. And I need to turn back and feel those, to release myself from those feelings from the past. I need to turn back and feel them again in a supportive environment. Generally, as a sort of general rule of thumb, unless you're quite well trained, it's really helpful, particularly when you feel things for the first time, to have someone there who's the sponsoring witness, the loving presence and witness. And, it could be a peer group member, it could be a well-trained friend, it could be a coach, it could be a therapist, someone who just says, yes, I get it. One time I had really, I've got some really early life freezing in my body that doesn't speak. It's very frozen. There's no sort of, big cathartic cry or punching there's nothing exciting, punching a pillow or shaking with fear. It's just frozenness. And, after many years of therapy, I thought, I've got to do something with this. So I happen to know she's like a therapist, but she's not one. And I just said, I want a 2-hour session. I'm going to come and lie on the floor in a fetal position. I'm going to feel my frozenness. And I want you to just be a witness, loving presence witness. And that was really wonderful. There was nobody trying to fix me, sort me out, ask me questions, do anything with me. I could just give that place in myself some space. Because very often people say, oh, the frozenness or the dissociation or what stops me from feeling it is the problem. But actually, that's just part of the symptom. It's just a part of what needs to be healed. So this is sort of the essence of it all, that whatever in you that needs to be healed, we need to welcome it. And we also need to welcome the place in us that doesn't want to feel it, that doesn't want to welcome it. We sort of have to welcome everything. So where we can create environments that hold a really safe, loving space for ourselves, that's where healing takes place. And so that's really the learning. And then all the fancy techniques that you can learn on courses or psychotherapy training are all just in support of that. One wasn't a psychotherapist, but an observer of psychotherapy said, what you need relationship between the practitioner and the client who's talking about psychotherapy. You need congruence on the part of the practitioner that something useful can happen. So the practitioner is holding that belief that something can happen. And then he said, and you need any ritual to engage in while waiting for the muse to strike. So in the important part is that loving presence engagement and that intention for healing. And the ritual is just something to occupy the time while the unconscious. This is quite an extreme sort of view. There are tools and methods, but what they're useful for is creating that moment of encounter, of when something happens between the two of you that is healing for the person who needs healing. And a large part of that is that the person who is in the process of healing discovers in themselves their own love and their compassion for that place in themselves. But sometimes it's just the support of an outside person to show the way. is really helpful. So I'm going to, in a moment, I'm going to lead a meditation on this, and then I want to do a demonstration with someone in the group. But first, any questions before I lead the meditation? Great. You have to unmute, Tom. Yeah, great.
I missed out a little bit on that antelope story. There was something about the antelope and lion.
Oh, the antelope. It was just that I saw a video in which, having been attacked, then the lion was chased away, and the antelope got up, shook with fear. That's one of the trauma responses. Let itself shake, and then went on about its business. And in fact, when some of the Peter Levine and others looked at people in war zones, the parents in the shelters when the bombing was happening would all be rigid, but the children would be shaking. And so one of someone I did a class with works in an emergency room, and what they now do is if someone's shaking, they encourage them to shake. That's a release, a trauma release response. So very often the cathartic experience of crying, of shouting, of being angry in our society gets suppressed. And it's very hard. You're a mother in a supermarket and your child is stamping on the ground and screaming and shouting. It's very easy to want to suppress it, but there isn't enough space in our society particularly for kids, to just really express what they feel. Any other questions before we do the meditation, or comments, or things personal to you, particularly to you, that you want to ask me about? Okay, great. So I can see that some of you are touched, so I'm noticing that. And yeah, I'm just noticing.
I have one question. I have one question.
Yeah, go on.
Can you hear? Yes.
Yes.
It's we are talking about the childhood always is being kind of continuing between, you're mentioning 3 and so on. I have a lot of memory, but I don't believe that I have any one before 5. When you were talking in last half an hour or whatever it is, I had a lot of memories, but I have a lot of memories, and I tried to figure out when it was. There was at 5, very, very important. At 7, another very important. At 9, very important. But none of them at 3. So I'm thinking, are those at 9 important? Are those at 7 also important? Because whatever happened before that, I mean.
Yes, the answer is yes. The answer is yes.
Okay.
Great. So, so that's the problem with sort of generalized models. It may be, I know someone who their early life experiences were not that dramatic, but it all came to a head when they, at their divorce at the age of 35. So what you have to do is you have to pay attention to yourself and to how all of this works for you. The generalizations are useful, but only to a limited degree. You have to just say, where is it in me that was, where difficulty happened, where difficulty started? And for some people, let me say that for some people, if you my memory is terrible, so I have I don't have much early memory. There are some people who've, had to blank out or blot out their early memories. So don't assume that, if you don't remember it, if you remember good things, then maybe there weren't any bad things. But if you don't remember anything at all, that's interesting. And also the other thing is that, what about, there's visual memory, pictures, but what about feeling memory? What's the feeling in the muscle of your body? So a lot of these things are quite unconscious. You know, I, for example, often have a pain above my solar plexus. And that's like a memory. It's like a feeling from an early time. There aren't any pictures or sounds connected with it, but it's a feeling of longing from a very, very early time. So there are different sorts of memories. So the basic thing is pay attention to yourself. What is it in you that needs healing today? You know, something needs healing today or tomorrow or this week or this month. Next month, it'll be something different. Thank you. Any other questions before we do the meditation? Celia, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing work on myself for a long time, and I recognise I had a very difficult childhood, and I couldn't have said that a while ago. But basically, I also find sometimes I'm just like a block of ice, and I'm thinking, why can't you really get to it, you know? And it seems like I go back over things quite a bit. And okay, each time it's perhaps knocking a bit off the structure, but it does feel quite difficult to penetrate some of this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It is. Yeah, that's right. It's difficult to penetrate some of this.
Mm.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
You know, we have to be compassionate about it.
Mm.
I said that if I wasn't enlightened by the time I was 30, I'd commit suicide. Well, you may think I haven't reached 30 yet, but I have to tell you that I have. You know, it's, you know, one of the, you know, things about being human is we have to have humility. We have to be humble. That things take a long time. Well, one of the ways to speed it up is to really honor and respect the ice block in yourself, to really bring attention to the ice block, to wonder about its positive intention, to be curious about it, to bring curiosity to it. So, and we have to give up an idea that one day we'll be a perfect human being. You know, nobody has ever been a perfect human being. Not the Dalai Lama, not Jesus Christ, not anybody, you know, not great Buddhas. You know, so there's, you know, where these complex, beautiful works of art, that our fragility and our woundedness and our difficulty is all a part of the beauty of being human. And so we just have to be, so paradoxically, the healing process is becoming more and more compassionate with our own stuckness. The more we are, you know, I know there are certain sorts of situations where I'll get triggered. And when I am in those situations, what happens now is I still get triggered, and but now I can turn to somebody and say, oh, this really has touched me and I feel quite vulnerable right now. Can I hold your hand or something? So it's that we hold ourselves better, and we're better at sharing ourselves, not that we get it all sorted. So thank you, Celia.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, unless there's anything burning, let's do a meditation. So is anybody here not used to doing guided meditation? I think everybody is. I'm just checking. Great. So the purpose of body-mind meditation or guided meditation is that we've been educated to be in our intellect, but our emotions can't really be solved or sorted or healed at the level of intellect. There are some tricks and some tools that can be done at the level of intellect, but the deep healing can't be done at that level. So we need to engage our whole body mind, much more of ourselves in the healing process. And I'm going to take you through a sort of really, the phrase is a prototype healing model. What that means is a model of healing that could be done in 1,000 different ways. It's sort of the essential ingredients of the healing approach. And the first step in that is that we get into a body-mind connected state. And so how do we do that? So by paying attention to our senses. So, you know, our feet on the floor, the temperature on our skin, feeling of muscles, maybe noticing things we don't pay much attention to, like our breathing. And then listening with our ears, and many of you know that first I like to listen outside the window. Then I like to listen for house sounds. Then I like to listen for sounds inside the room. Then I can listen for sounds in my body, like my breathing. If it's very quiet, I can hear my heartbeat. I can feel the hairs in my nose. And then I can listen for, you can listen for your internal dialogue. Is there a voice in your head? And what you do is listen to it from a distance, like it's someone in the room who's talking to you. Be curious and be interested. You don't necessarily believe that voice, but you can listen from a distance. You observe that voice. You can stare at the thought, at the voice. And the voice may be connected to a feeling of anxiety or something else. So that's interesting to note, but because you can hear outside the window, you can hear in the house, you can hear in the room, you can hear in your body. This voice is only one of the things that you're aware of. You're aware of your skin. You're aware of your muscle. You could attend to your breathing. And it's fine to move your body to make yourself more comfortable if you need to. And what we're seeking to do is to hold as much as we can in awareness, everything we see, everything we hear, everything we feel. It's impossible to hold it all in conscious awareness. But the unconscious holds it all. So notice the field of awareness in which we see, in which we hear, in which we feel. And now let's evoke our psychological resources. Who are the people in your life who've believed in you, who've seen you and believed in you? See their face, and hear their words, feel what it's like being connected with them. Can you feel their care, their love? People who've loved you, believed in you. Perhaps there are people that you've never met who bless you, who bring you care, who see the value of you as a magnificent human being, or who would support you. And in this difficult time on planet Earth, I like to call on life, to call on source, to call on higher power. Support me in becoming all of who I am, so that I can make a contribution to the world. So I call on the support of life itself, in whatever form, however you imagine it or visualize it or experience it or language it. Call it in and feel it. It could just be the magnificence of the cosmos, or all the beauty of Mother Earth. Call to Mother Earth, help me. Help me be a great member of your tribe who makes a difference. And so then, perhaps just to focus for a moment, is there anybody else, any person or being or creature or archetype or saint that can support you in your healing journey? And I wonder what it is in you that could really do with some loving healing today. What place in you needs to be seen, held, felt, supported, blessed? What place in you needs that today? And so bring the belief in yourself, the love, the care of these people, these psychological resources, these spiritual resources to your heart, so that your heart is warm. Make sure you feel it in your heart. And then bring it from your heart to the places in yourself, or the place in yourself that needs healing. Now, it might be that you bring your love and these resources to a physical feeling in your body, a place in your body that is tense or hurts. Perhaps in your chest, perhaps in your solar plexus, perhaps in your belly, perhaps in your sex, perhaps in your throat. Maybe it's more of an image of the child in you. Or the voice of a younger you. It doesn't have to be the child. It could be any place in the younger you that needs healing. It's really great to just allow to be curious about noticing what emerges that comes up for healing. Noticing what just comes up for healing. And bring this care, this love, this warm, tender heart, your wise adult mind to this place in yourself. You have a wise adult mind that has life experience. You've learnt a lot from good things, and you've learnt a lot from difficulty. Your wise adult mind and your warm, tender heart can come to this place in you and speak words of kindness, or send rays of love, like light that's loving, or something like honey that soothes this place, or just to really closely witness with a warm heart the place in you that hurts. To really pay attention to the place in you that hurts. To bring love, to bring attention, to bring curiosity, to ask questions, to give words. Hey, little sister. Hey, little brother. Perhaps there's a conversation with you as the coach for that place in yourself, you as the mentor, you as the adult, you as the healer. Or maybe it's more about these resources and your warm heart and the wise adult mind, just holding this place in you, this person in you, holding yourself with love, with sweetness, And what commitments does this place in you want? Does it want, what does it want? Does it want you to come more often? Does it want to be held more? Does it want you to explain why things were the way they were? Does it just want to be noticed? What does it want for you in your life? What does it want in her or his life? Just bringing attention. Maybe you're beginning to discover how this place in you needs more attention during the course of the days and weeks that come. What sort of support does this place in you need? Healing doesn't always happen on the first date. Maybe something more is needed. Just being able to accept this in yourself is a really strong start to the healing process. What's the longing that this place in you has? And how might you continue this journey of connection and self-care and support in the future? Either you and this place and this yourself, or with a friend or a peer group member or a therapist or a coach. What support do you need in the future, and how can you give this to yourself? How can this relationship develop in the future? How can this relationship with yourself grow in the future? If there was a daily practice, if there was a time in the day when you meditate or connect, how would you remember this, do more of this during that time? When you're ready with these thoughts, just bring yourself back to the group. And I'm going to have you debrief very, very briefly, just for 3 minutes per person in pairs, just to say, how was that how was it for you holding a place in yourself? You don't need to tell the whole story, or, only say as much as you want to, but how was that exercise in holding or bringing attention to that place in yourself? One person talks 3 minutes. The other is not allowed to comment or give advice. No commenting, no giving advice, just listening, nodding, paying attention. And at the end of 3 minutes, I'll call time, and then the other person gets 3 minutes just to share. How was that for you, holding yourself now? The group rooms are open now. So what did you, who was really in touch with a place in yourself that needed healing? Go on, Georgian. You have to unmute if you want to speak.
I just said I was in touch. I didn't. Do you want me to say how, or I mean where?
In touch with.
What was I in touch with? I was in touch with, well, I suppose, my heart and
Your
heart.
heart.
Yeah.
What was happening in your heart?
When it was wounded, it was very wounded.
What's it wounded? What's the wound?
It just felt like a knife. The actual wound. Well, I ended up saying to Gordon, which is very strange. It's most of my life I've been very sort of hopeful, and I feel it's almost like when you say my wise self, adult self, whatever. It's almost as if the hope has been beaten out of me.
How has the hope been beaten out of you?
Through circumstance, through
Which circumstances?
through life, through tragedies, through things.
What
Yeah.
tragedies?
Hmm?
What tragedies?
My brother's death, my marriage breakup, various accidents.
When did your brother die?
He died 15 years ago.
And when did your marriage break up?
That was just a bit before that. No, it wasn't. That was about 20 years ago.
And so you've been hopeless for 20 years.
No, it's just, I mean, I'm just saying that was something that came into my head. No, I've picked myself up. I got very badly burned in my house, nearly burnt down, and I got very badly burned, and I picked myself up from that. It's like my life has been a series of semi-disasters, or
How was the healing today? How was the healing?
It was good. It was a bit scary.
What was scary? What was scary?
What was scary was the thought that maybe it wouldn't just never be healed.
Yeah.
Beyond
What if
healing.
it was never healed? What if it was never healed and you had to hold with love and kindness this place in yourself?
Well, one image I had was of me as an adult cradling myself as a baby.
Yeah.
And that was that was very powerful. It was very moving. I was I wasn't comforting myself. I was just holding myself as a child, as a baby.
maybe you'll have to, I mean, maybe you'll have to do that. Maybe I'll have to do that for the rest of my life, is hold the child in me that's a baby. You know, maybe that's something we have to do. How would that be if you committed to holding the baby in you for the rest of your life, welcomed her and held her, gave her what she never got?
That would be very soothing.
Mm.
It would be the word unifying comes to mind. I don't know where that came from. But
You know what? You know, we get abandoned as children, and then we compound it by abandoning ourselves.
yes.
And so it's like, actually, are you now willing to come back and say, I won't abandon you anymore. I will hold, if you need to be held, I will hold you. Could you, you know, if we can do that, it's a beautiful thing to do, to be able to do, to just accept, I will have to hold you for the rest of my life. Maybe I'll die with you in my arms.
That's a rather beautiful thought. That's right. That's sort of honoring myself, and it's also it's not just comforting, it's confirming myself.
Yeah. There's a beautiful line from the poet David White, which was, you know, and the last person I want to see when I leave the world is myself.
That sounds a bit ambiguous. Something.
Oh, I pray that you keep her close and you're sweet with her. Yeah. What else was touched in other people during the meditation that you can feel like sharing? At a feeling level, I'm interested in the feeling in your body that was touched rather than conceptual. And there's no need to speak out unless you want to. It's just, it's just hold the space. Sometimes people rescue me by trying to end the silence. You don't need to do that. But if there's a part in you that wants to be seen by me, and that would be
right. I want to say something.
Okay, first you. Sorry. First you, and then see.
Oh.
Okay, go on, Zarko.
Okay. There were so many things passing through my mind, as I said. One was all these childhood memories and so on, and trying to connect that with what is today happening in my life, and I couldn't find much connection. There are these images, dozens and dozens of images which come in. I said, and how does that influence my life? Why is that I'm remembering those things and not the other, and so on? And I couldn't really connect there, because at my age, and I'm going to be in a few days 88, at this point I kind of have some.
The line's bad, Zarko. Oh, unfortunately, I think we've lost Zarko. The line was bad as well. Zarko, the line's bad.
Okay, okay.
I just want to.
Okay, how about, is it now better?
A little.
And I said, how does it relate to my life today? And I said, well, there are two things today which seems to be important. One is, do I try to find a way of conscious passing over, or do I take care of my daughter and granddaughter by somehow in the world in which is going, seems to be held to provide the sanctuary for them spending my few days making it sure that they are not going to be hungry and so on. So among those two things, do I take care of myself or do I care of them? And then
maybe it's
when,
both. Maybe it's
yeah, and maybe when Jenkins coming, then it came to one of the things to me, which was kind of, while listening to her, seems to be, wow, he said, the most important things, it seems to me, which from my life is that when I was 10 or 12 years old, I told to myself for a week or two or months, every single day, I never want to be like them, which meant my teachers, my father and mother, my environment, my surroundings. I said, I am not going to be like them. That was it. I said, they are all hypocrites. They are all not keeping their word. They all are ready to lie when it's necessary. They are all ready to compromise. I am never going to be like them. And that came like a kind of final things during all this thinking. Okay.
It's hard to engage with you, Zarko, because the line is so bad. And all the thoughts and the pictures are really interesting and may bring you some answers. But the thing that I'm really interested in, I can't work with you with it now because the line isn't okay, but is where are the feelings in your body? That's what I'm interested in. But I'm not going to ask, I don't think we can, it's difficult having this conversation because the line from you is so bad. So that's really, so I'm bringing my attention to what's underneath the stories, the memories, the images, and to the feelings. And I'm touched by two beautiful feelings, actually. One is that you want to learn how to die in peace, which is a beautiful thing that you want to learn. And yeah, that's sort of such an important thing. And the other is that you want to give to your family. And those are very, very beautiful things. So if I was working with you more, I'd want to have you really just to explore what you feel, not so much the stories, but what you feel. So thank you, Zarko. I'm touched by you. I'm touched by you. Celia, you had your hand up, didn't you?
Yeah, this might be fairly brief, actually, but I found myself very defended today. And I did get an image of this ice cube because I've been defrosting my fridge, so I lost a load of them. But I had this image of this square that was actually melting, but it's still very, very frozen, actually, most of the way through. But I was very aware of this manager coming in, and I felt this big defense.
This manager, what do you mean, this manager?
Something like, well, hang on, just doing this is on Zoom. It's I sort of feel I need to feel very safe if I'm going to expose myself to stuff.
Yeah.
So therefore, I could only allow so much melting to go on, so to speak.
Yeah. Just stop talking for a moment.
Sorry.
Stop talking for a moment.
Okay.
Because I want and look at me and just feel me. Because the talking can be a way of avoiding the feelings. And there's two things that's really present right now. One is that there's a melting ice cube. So that's not exactly a feeling, but something underneath that ice cube is a feeling. So I'm both honoring the melting ice cube and just we have to be really, really patient with ourselves. So it's just like really patient with the reason you had to have an ice cube in the first place, the reason why you had to freeze in the first place. To be really sweet and tender with that place in you to really be interested in that place. How come I needed to freeze? What was going on where freezing was the best choice for me? And just to be really curious and sweet with that. Like probably as some, I don't know, a younger you, at some point in your life, you said that freezing is the best answer. Isn't that a sad thought? So we just want to be very sweet and compassionate with the place in you that froze. And also really sweet and compassionate with the place in you that doesn't want to be exposed, whether it's online or in another forum. Actually, some people, in fact, there's a friend of mine runs a group for a workshop for women who've been sexually abused, and they actually open up more online than they do face to face. Somehow it seems easier for them to do it online. So, there's a place in you that is frightened of being exposed, and so there's that. So we honor that and say, wow, whatever it was, I'm sure that makes sense. There was a time in your life when being exposed was risky. And then the other part to honor is the manager in you, the sort of the in your head, oh, don't expose yourself here, it's an online group, it's only a short amount of time. She helped you in that stage of your life. And so my sort of prayer, so she needs to be honored, but also I want to ask her, if you can find a space, which perhaps your therapy is, that's safe enough for her to actually let go and say, let me reveal much more. One day maybe you could be okay with I'm not even going to say revealing all. There are some things that I haven't said to my therapist, but to reveal much, much more. And just to honor these places in yourself. You saved your life with this manager. You saved your life by freezing. And to really honor that, you're coping with life pretty well, it seems to me. There are some people who couldn't make it on a call. I think you've got a job and all of those things. So, this freezing you got you through. This manager who's cautious got you through. And so just to bring really love and tenderness to that in you. Is there any change in your body that happens when I speak from my words? Is any place in your body touched by my words?
I think I do feel touched by the words. I feel more relaxed. And, it makes me feel I can actually embrace the ice cube bit a bit more, because it's actually quite unpleasant if you're touching ice in some ways.
Yeah.
But
you
actually,
could wrap the ice cube in a towel
okay.
and then embrace it. Be a little bit more comfortable.
Yes. Yeah. I don't actually think I might have an ice cream tonight. That's what I'm going to have. I've got some in the fridge, or freezer.
And check, is that just a sort of, is that a comfort thing? I just wanted you to check, is that like, oh, I'll go and eat some ice cream, then I don't have to think about this? Or is it really some sort of healing metaphor connected with?
I think it's a healing metaphor, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Just feel your body, feel your throat, feel your heart, feel your solar plexus, feel your belly. Watch your busy mind from a distance and just say, oh, look at her. She's really taking care of me right now. She's being a busy mind. And just be sweet with her. Yeah. Be sweet with how you are right now. It's okay to hide raw places in ourselves. It's okay to find that changes. It's okay to go slow. What if it was all just perfectly okay the way that you're doing your healing journey. What if that was just perfectly okay? You know, I'm not very good on trees, but some trees grow to full blossom in a few years, and some take hundreds and hundreds of years. Maybe you're a beech tree or an oak tree or something. We just have to be with our own speed of growth, our own blossoming. To really trust that. The more we trust our own blossoming process, the easier it is, actually. So that's sort of the key, that you're really on track. You've got your therapy, and I can feel you feeling this right now. So, you know, and I know this is connecting. My heart feels warm. Sometimes it's like, do you remember the E.T. movie? And the sort of, you know, it's like,
Oh, yes.
the little golden finger on the end. And we have to keep letting people bless us in this way, touch us with love. And we have to, it's helpful to learn how to do this with ourselves. And also, and having other people involved is so important, because we're not alone in it. We're here to help each other get through this life, whatever this is. How does that feel now?
It feels okay, actually. I like the stuff about the other people. It makes me feel good, and I think I've missed it, actually, because we've not met for a while. So it does feel important, yeah. Thank you.
Is it about old people, you said?
No, other people.
Other people, yeah.
Yeah,
Are you on your own quite a lot?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
Do you live alone?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I pray that, you know, actually, I was reading something about quantum physics, and there's a whole new theory that's been around for a while. Somebody was writing about it. Maybe the only thing that exists is relationships. That's one of the quantum physics theories, you know. So I sort of pray that you reach out more and others reach into you more. That's what I pray.
Thank you.
Sort of together we can do this.
Great.
I'm not going to let you go yet. So I can tell that's the sort of great I do when I'm saying, yeah, I've had enough of this. I just say, great. Yeah, you deserve attention. Everyone else, can you just feel how slow but beautiful this is? It's like going slow is this is slow cooking.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah. So just sort of feeling Celia in our bodies. Feel her in your body. Feel her, you know, we don't know the detail of her predicament, but we have some key elements. So, yeah. So you're welcome anytime, Celia. And yeah, if you were in a group with me, I'd enjoy that. So it feels to me like you're someone you're like a plant that needs a lot of sunshine and some watering, you know. It's sort of like, you know, the plants basically, they need sunshine, they need some watering, they may need to be protected from little animals that might nibble at their shoots. They might need a little bit of windbreak. But really they grow on their own. And it just feels like with you like that you just need a little bit of nourishment and care, and you'll blossom more easily. So yeah. Do you mind if I tell her? I'm not a Christian, as most of you know, but my partner is, and I've been studying Christianity. And it's the do you know the prodigal? Do you mind me mentioning a story from the Bible, Celia?
No,
Okay.
go ahead.
The story. I mean, it's the story of the prodigal son who comes back having abandoned his family, and his father immediately creates a great feast. So it could be the prodigal daughter, whose father or mother has created a great feast, and the other kids say, "Oh, why have you? We've been here working for you all the time. You're giving half your property to the one who's come back." And the father, the mother, the prodigal father says, "This is your place. This is your time. There's nothing for you to repay. You're here now. I'm glad." It's like, so there's a sort of feeling of you're so welcome back. All the parts of you, I want to welcome back from that exile. Feels like you've been exiled. Really wanting to welcome you back. Come to all my free workshops on a Wednesday and keep engaging with this.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you, Celia, so much.
Thanks.
Anyone else got a physical sensation in their body that was touched during the meditation? A feeling that was touched that you want to talk about? Share. Or or there's some physical part, emotional part of you that you're having difficulty relating with, and I could help you relate to that place in yourself. So just sitting here for a moment, sitting here, notice how you feel in your body. There are some things that I've got some tension in my shoulders because I've been busy. But actually, that's not the real thing. The real thing is a little soft spot in my solar plexus. So where is there an emotionally vulnerable place in your body right now? That just needs some attention. Maybe it's shy. And if it's hard for you to feel, then it could be the image of the child in you. And it could be the small kid, the medium-sized kid, or the teenager who's, suddenly men are acting odd around you, or something's happened, or the 20-something, who is it? The most direct route is through the feeling, to feel the feeling and ask the feeling. But another route is that an image of the younger you appears and says, I need some attention. I need some attention. So has anyone got one that's very clear? Younger you that needs attention, either as a physical sensation or as an image that you're willing to share, or sort of a younger you that's present right now. Go on, Gordon.
So yeah, I've got one that really give myself permission to relax and do nothing. You know, I've been through a very busy time, and you know, there are stresses in the new home and getting stuff done, but I'm just not ready to do stuff, and I just want to be at peace, and that's it for a little while. And I just want to give myself permission to do that. You know, when I was young, I was yeah, quite shy. You know, I had a sister who was 1 year older than me. It's not some great trauma, but she was, you know, developing a year ahead of me, and was I was somewhat in her shadow. And I think I'm quite, you know, relatively quiet, although I've had my own life with them. I've quite enjoyed it, but I just need to do things at my own pace and just be gentle with myself and relax and come to doing and things on my own terms and time.
Oh, yeah, Gordon. You make it sound like your life has been easy. I know that it hasn't. You know, you both with your work and with your family, you've had to struggle, and with your own mental health. You've worked really, really hard. You've really been a warrior in your life. And that's really admirable. You know, maybe you've become such a warrior that you think you need to be a warrior all the time. But actually, you know, maybe this is the time to stop being a warrior and say, I'm just taking time out. Maybe you need a gap year. To really truly recognize how hard you've worked on yourself, actually on the three marriages: the marriage with yourself, the marriage with your work, and the marriage of your family. You've worked really, really hard on all three. You've been really gone for it. You've had to, you've been forced to. Really. So now is your time to do nothing. And let it rise spontaneously. It sounds great. You can put down your sword and your armor. And
That feels good.
you know, there's a sort of chasm. On one side of the chasm is people being busy and creating lists and planning things and making stuff happen, which is very, very sort of big feature of the way we organize in the world, you know, planning schedules and all of that sort of stuff. And then on the other side of the chasm is that if you sat still in a garden, at some point you'd get up and do something. You know, that action, you know, you will go and feed yourself. You will go for a walk. You will. So I call it flow time. You know, I make sure I have days in my life. And in fact, I'm thinking of taking 3 months gap period where I just let myself flow. You know, I get up and I say, oh, what do I feel? You know, what's happening now? What do I feel like doing now? Oh, I need to feed myself. Oh, I need to walk in the garden. I want to walk in the garden. Oh, I want to this. To have a little bit of space in your life for that. You know, when was the last time you had space for that, Gordon?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, a good while ago.
40 years ago, probably 45 years ago. That's what enlightenment is: the person who's just able to go with the flow. What arises in the moment. They don't just sit staring into space. They do things, but they have to spend enough time staring into space. Most of us don't have the privilege to do that. We've got these busy lives. And you've got a chance to do that for a while, and then something will emerge from that. It's like you can stop pushing for a while. even for a few, I don't know, but you know, I don't know what your commitments are, but even for a few days or a week or a few weeks or
Mhm. Mm.
How does that feel in your body?
Yes, that feels good. It's it feels, yeah, it feels in my, feels good in my stomach. It feels like relief, and it feels welcoming.
So everybody, what have I just done? I've just taken what Gordon told me. I've mixed it up in a pot in my heart with my own heart essence, and I've just served it back to him. But I basically served back to him what he was telling me, but with a big dose of my heart added to the mix. So it was nothing much more than saying yes, 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 yes to Gordon, but with a little bit of my own perspective and blessing thrown in. And also Gordon was being a little, maybe, I mean, you know, he doesn't know you all, but I know him quite well. So I know what you've been through. So I was able to say, hey, you know, bring a little bit of a different perspective. But basically I've served back to you what it is that you told me, but with lots of heart attached to it. Anyone else want a little play with me? I mean, I can talk about what I'm doing. Is I thought that I might do a long 30-minute, 40-minute demonstration, but it hasn't quite happened. So I've done lots of little pieces with different people. But you can do this as a long process, you know, getting the body-mind connected state, having the intention for healing, and then getting the resources, you know, who are all the people in my life who've ever loved me? Who are the saints who love me? Who are my heroes? Who are the people and to build that's a whole really important part of the healing process, is building those psychological and spiritual resources. And then bringing all of that to oneself and saying, bring all this support, and now let me bring that to the wounded places, the vulnerable places, the exiled places, the abandoned places, the tight places, the frozen places, to all the exiled parts of myself. And it's a life process. Every day I do spiritual meditation and psychological meditation. And psychological meditation is what in me needs to be held with love today. You know, I do that every day, and I'm spending lots of time on it. I'll be doing it for the whole of my life. I'm sure on the day I die, I'll say, what is it in me that needs to be loved today? It's like a life process. So then you could have a process of, you know, so you bring the resources, then you identify the place in you that, you know, that's hurt or wounded. Sometimes it's good to get an age for it, you know, how old is that feeling in you? You know, get a sense of, is it a 3-year-old or is it a 14-year-old or a 21-year-old? And then you can have a conversation with it, but really it's about bringing love to the feeling. I mean, one of the most simplest methods, which, you know, meditators use, you sort of breathing in light or spaciousness into the body, into the place in you that's tight. You know, these are all sort of ways of doing that. And just bringing attention to a place that hurts is healing. Just saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm staying, I'm staying, I'm staying. Sometimes you have to say, I've stayed, this is really painful, I need to go and do something else. You know, not to be hard on you because you need to look at Facebook or watch telly or do a distraction activity. You know, it's just, let's not live our whole lives from the distraction activity, whether it's telly or social media or eating food or whatever it is, being busy at work. There's lots and lots of ways of distracting ourselves. You know, but that's normal. But let's have enough time for holding the. There are places in me that are easy for me to hold and enjoy being with. And there are places in me that are difficult for me to hold and enjoy being with. And it's really helpful to my overall integrity, you know, my overall connectedness, my overall alignment, to be able to give attention to the places in me that don't get much attention, particularly if they're places that hold me back. It's like keep coming back to that place in myself that's lonely or abandoned. Keep saying, I'm coming back, I'm coming back, I'm coming back. Okay, what I'd like to do now, yeah, go on.
So in my case, I didn't feel any sensations and I was in a bit of a trance-like state. However, certain thoughts were coming to me.
Yeah, what were the thoughts?
My brother is having a severe case of narcissistic personality disorder.
You have it. Did you say you have it?
Not me, my brother has got it. And basically, he's a manipulative and toxic kind of person.
So let's talk about you, not about your brother.
Yeah. So yeah, what do you ask?
What's the question? Do you have a question?
Yeah, they were, I was just narrating since nobody was, so I just thought, let me tell about my experience. So
What's your experience?
I have,
What's your experience?
My experience was that one is I went into a trance-like state, and second is that I was having some thoughts. And in fact, I'm a little bit now, I can see it from a distance rather than with a lot of emotion and being charged. And
what emotion? What emotion?
Hurting or no, I'm not having much. I seem to have recovered from that. You know, that's the inference I'm drawing. Yeah.
So, you know, under the thoughts about your brother will be feelings in your body about, you know, he's someone that you either love or have loved or you care about. And so rather than focus on him, you focus on how thinking about him impacts you in your body. That's all, you know. So it's like, so I can just say the place in you that's a brother that feels upset, like, you know, I feel connected to. Yeah.
Thank you.
My own twin brother died of a heroin overdose. So, but the place for healing is in my relationship, in myself, in relation to him. Yeah. Okay, so we're almost at time. So next week, we're going to talk about aligning with yourself emotionally every day. So we're going to take this to a daily practice. And then on the 21st of September, we're going to talk about believing in yourself. So, you know, and also the places in you that don't believe in yourself. You know, that polarity of believing in changing, not believing in yourself or feeling like the outsider, and then believing in yourself and believing in your ability to grow and having hope. That's on the 21st, and those are September the 14th and the 21st are, that's 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. But also on the 21st, we've got 6 p.m. to 6:45 p.m., which is a question and answer session on the 9-week Tools for Personal Transformation program, Life Talent Level 1, that starts on Monday, the 2nd of October. And then on the 28th of September, we've got something again, which is about the healing process, but it's called Everything is Waiting for You. It's connecting to how life is waiting for you. So that's the schedule of the next few weeks. What I'd like to do before we finish is ask everybody to share something about how you're feeling right now, and then pass it on to the next person. So I'd like to start with Barbara. How are you feeling? And
peaceful and inspired. Zarko?
You're muted, Zarko.
It's a richness of experience of different kinds. So richness.
And pass it to someone, Zarko.
Oh yes, Gordon.
I'm feeling calm and peaceful. I'll pass it on to Debbie.
Also feeling calm, but also a little bit tired. And I'll pass it on to Anna.
I'm feeling peaceful and very in touch with my tiredness as well. I came out of the meditation feeling very in touch with how tired I am. I'll pass it on to Celia.
Thank you. I just feel more hopeful tonight and quite relaxed, actually. So thank you. And I'll pass it on to Om.
Yeah, I'm feeling comfortable and curious to know what learnings come in the next session. And not only intellectual learnings, but change, transformation, growth. And the thought which also comes to me is that, Julian, you are as good or better than Bertrand.
And who?
Bertrand.
Bertrand. You're on. Who are you passing it to?
Who's remaining now?
Georgian and Li Wei.
Yeah, so Georgian, your spelling is very difficult. Georgian is okay. Georgian.
Okay, I'm feeling moved. I'm feeling very moved. And sort of uncertain.
Good.
I'm grateful.
Sometimes we need to embrace the uncertainty, the fear, the sadness, all of that, the hopelessness, to actually say, oh, I'm hopeless or I'm helpless, to embrace that rather than to push it away. The quick trick is, oh, I'm feeling, let me just find hope. And sometimes you just have to say, actually, the hopelessness has been around for a while. I need to bring loving attention to that. So, yeah. Li Wei, have you got your translator there? How are you feeling?
你的感觉怎么样？
你说我请儿子翻译，我觉得非常的感动和温暖。
I feel so touched and warm.
都是心里非常的感恩，谢谢。
And also really thankful.
What's your son's name, Li Wei?
你的儿子名字是什么？
叫佩仪，傅佩仪。
It's Perry, means the energy and passion.
Perry, what are you feeling right now, Perry?
Okay, so I just broke up with my girlfriend. I feel so sad.
You feel sad. So don't laugh, but you're smiling because it's like embarrassment, but you just broke up with your girlfriend, so that's tough. Sending you love.
Thank you.
谢谢
Yeah.
谢谢朱莲。
Great.
嗯
So what am I feeling? My heart's feeling just really warm. I've been really enjoying the connection with you all. Has everybody shared? Has everybody shared? I think you have. There's nobody that hasn't. I'm feeling really warm, and isn't this a nice way to spend an afternoon? You know, listening to each other in a tender way. So great to see you, and I look forward to seeing you next week. I'm going to send out a new link to all of this because I won't even go into it, but you'll get an email with a new link. If you want to come next week, you have to sign up again, I'm afraid to say. So lots of love to you all, and take care, and hope to see you next week.
Thank you for your time. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
to see you, Anna.
Yes, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Julie.
Thank you, Julian.
Thank you, Julian.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you
大
all.
家。
Thank you, Julia. Thank you.